On today's episode of Alive and Thriving, I am going to be sharing a little bit about some of the changes that I have made holistically more recently to support myself through a challenging time for my nervous system. So some of you may be aware, that I had a small trauma at the end of April, but that small trauma triggered a response in my body from some big traumas. And that then sort of, I guess, rolled into a big giant snowball, which led to me actually being in bed for a couple of weeks, struggling with a freeze response, panic attacks, and anxiety. Now, this is something that I was observing happening to myself, and it was like watching a slow car accident unfold in front of me. Like it just literally it was something that happened so slowly but so quickly that all of a sudden, and it did happen really quickly, I just went downhill. Now, I am very fortunate that self-awareness is something that I have practiced for a very long time. It is something I'm very familiar with. So I was able to quickly realize that I needed help. Now, this is the sort of thing I work with people with. I literally help people get out of the same thing I was experiencing. And so I knew who I needed help from. I knew what I needed to do. But I also had to make some changes in my life as well. Well, I chose to make some changes in my life to support this shift out of anxiety and to support my nervous system more holistically. So I want to share some of those changes with you today. And I want to be really, really clear that this is not any form of medical advice, and that if you are struggling mentally, please still work with a mental health practitioner, work with an alternative therapist, work with your GP, whoever it is that you are working with. And if you haven't tried alternative therapies for anxiety, I do highly, highly recommend giving those a go. For me, obviously it's EFT tapping that I use to get through so much of my day, hypnotherapy, to get through what I've been going through, and then some other modalities that I've been experiencing with other practitioners as well. So I've been doing some theta healing sessions with a beautiful mentor of mine and some other energy work. And that has all been so phenomenal, and and kinesiologist as well. I've been working with a kinesiologist, and I just can't stress to you how much better I'm feeling, how much more naturally balanced I am feeling internally. And so, as I said, if you have been struggling with anxiety and perhaps you've been doing the same things over and over again to try and feel better, then let's have a chat about what alternative therapies might be able to do for you. So in my private healing sessions, use a blend of techniques that really combine mind, body, and soul, energy, everything. So techniques like EFT tapping, body psychotherapy, clinical hypnotherapy, so many different techniques and styles that I have been trained in. You can have a look at my About Me page and you'll see that I've done a lot of study over the last few years and learned so many modalities because probably because I'm a manifesting generator actually. So I'm always looking for like something. I'm always, intrigued by something. Like a computer screen with so many tabs open. But my point, though, is that all of these modalities serve a purpose in everybody's healing, and it's so amazing to be able to sit with a client and have something come up that that tapping would be the best thing for, or have something come up that that is more coaching, or something that is hypnotherapy or special trauma techniques that I've been trained in. So if you have been struggling with anxiety and you are curious about what an alternative approach might look like, and it can be complementary to whatever clinical approach you are doing, it doesn't have to be instead of, But if you haven't done any kind of work that works with the body as well, and you are trying to treat anxiety or trying to heal from trauma or trying to overcome emotional challenges, then it is going to continue to come up for you. It is going to continue to come up for you because these things live in our body, in our subconscious mind that resides in our body. So if that's something that you are interested in, if you think that you are ready, if you know that you are ready to feel better, and you're committed to your growth and you're committed to your healing, and you know that there is a whole nother version of you that exists outside of anxiety and outside of stress and outside of this survival mode that you've been living in, then let's chat about that. Okay, so I offer a complimentary chat. It's just 20 minutes. It's a phone call, and we just have a chat to make sure that, this is right for you, that the services that I offer are right for you, and it's completely obligation free. So if it's not right, it's not right. So let's get into this episode. I'm excited to share some of the changes that I've made. Some of them might surprise you. Some of them you might go, oh my God, am I ready to do that? But let's just see how you respond and how your body responds to some of these things. I'll explain why I made the choices as well.
You're listening to Alive and Thriving with Jessica Reed, the podcast that's all about empowering you to achieve optimal wellness and success through self-care, holistic practices, and raw conversations. Jessica and her expert guests are here to share powerful insights and strategies to help you overcome stress and anxiety, take charge of your life, and thrive in life and in business. Grab a cuppa and let's dive in.
So the first thing that I did when I was helping myself to recover out of this dark, deep hole that I fell into very quickly was support my nervous system. Well, actually, we'll take a step back. The first thing I did was ask for help. That was the first thing I did because I knew, as I mentioned in the introduction, that it kind of happened really, really quickly in terms of how quickly I went downhill. I knew I had to ask for help. This is the thing about people who work with other people, healers, therapists. I used to have a bit of an ego thing going on that, I could just heal myself because I could help other people do the same thing. But here's the thing. Your brain only allows you to go as deep as what it feels safe to. And if you are struggling, no matter how much you know the tools, no matter how much you know how to help yourself, excuse me, I'm losing my voice, there is absolutely no shame in asking for help. In fact, I truly believe that the best therapists have a therapist and the best coaches have a coach. And they probably have both a coach and a therapist, to be honest. And aren't you lucky if you work with me, you get both. So I asked for help. I reached out to people who I knew could hold that deep space for me, who I trusted. And I started there. And that was uncomfortable work. Okay? It was uncomfortable. I know that so often we avoid doing the things, particularly the somatic-based therapies, because we're scared of what we're going to feel. But I promise you, if you are in a hole, if you're not in a good place, what you're feeling in that moment is worse than what you're going to experience during your therapy. So that's just a side note. So when I look at the changes I was making, I was already doing things to support my nervous system as a part of my daily routine, but I took that energy practice even deeper. So really, really focused on teaching my body through nervous system work, through energy work, and through somatic practices that I am safe, helping my body to come out of survival mode with every tool and every technique that I knew how. So that meant tapping as I was having thoughts of things that were coming up, tapping through panic attacks, supporting myself through panic attacks and things that way. But that also meant for me gentle movements like rocking, meant things like getting back into my body with my hips, using my Flowpresso bodysuit, which I'm so fortunate to have. And if you're in Canberra, let's chat about that as well, because oh my God, it is phenomenal. But really teaching my nervous system that I was safe was so important. So lots of breathing, lots of somatic work, and lots of regulating, and lots of kindness and compassion for myself as well. I had been through a lot. I had been through so much, and it was such an accumulation. Like I mentioned, one small trauma, seemingly small trauma, that triggered things that were so much bigger. And so I had been through a lot. And so I really had to meet myself with kindness and compassion and not push myself. Who did I have the capacity to work with that week? It's okay if I cleared my calendar. It's okay if I moved people. It's okay if I actually had a week off because I needed to prioritize my well-being. It's okay if I didn't show up to my masterminds. It's okay, it's okay if I actually just turned inwards and just dealt with how I was feeling. That was a really, really big thing. So I guess one of the biggest changes that I've made is the change to my morning routine. And I've spoken about this in previous episodes, but how I really specifically target what I need to be working on within my own body. Target the meridians, the energy highways in my body that support exactly what I need. Target them with tapping points, target them with other energy work. And other, like I said, somatic things to really help me come out of that fight or flight response and teach my body and my mind that I am safe. So that's one change that I've made, is a change to my early morning routine. Now, another change that I made was now, again, this is really, really my personal experience here. This is absolutely no medical advice whatsoever, because that is not my role. But if you're familiar with my story, then you will know that since 2009, I have tried multiple medications to support anxiety, to support a dysregulated nervous system, to support how I was feeling, none of which I could ever handle the side effects of. So my body, even just with a really low dose pain relief, just doesn't handle it. It's too much. And that's okay. I've had to come to accept that. So for me, taking certain medications, even ones that were prescribed to help me relax in this time of need, they actually made me have multiple panic attacks. So I don't go down that pathway by my own personal choice and by my own personal experience. But again, this is not medical advice, and I know how life-saving these medications are for people. So please, there's no judgment here either. This is just my experience. But I did know that there are different herbs and things that I could support myself with. And so I chose to use those. So I was having a little cocktail every morning. And again, please, if you're on medication, you need to check with your GP or a pharmacist before you just go and start taking any herbal medications. But so I was having a bit of a cocktail of chamomile mainly at nighttime. But I was having ashwagandha, St. John's wort, and lemon balm. And I was just mixing those with some juice, and I was having those twice a day, and that was phenomenal in terms of calming. I was also having kava bursts when I was having, and you can get those from a pharmacist, but again, check if you're on medications. And they were really helping with the panic attacks. So those things got me through some really, really hard times. And then as everything started to settle, I was able to look at things a little bit more detailed. So once the emotional challenge, the really high, heightened emotions had settled, I was able to sort of go, okay, the anxiety becomes so much worse when I have my period. The panic attacks are also coming when I'm in pain in my neck. And I've spoken about that in a previous episode, how I'm managing whiplash. So, that understanding what was going on with me physically and what needed to be done there has impacted how I've been feeling emotionally, but also understanding that when I reflect upon my period, for example, that highly anxious week isn't something that is new. So this is, obviously something that is reoccurring each month that I never really put two and two together with. So the next thing that I have done to support myself is to work on my hormonal health. Now, this is something that is new. I've started seed cycling, and I can confirm that this month, which is my third month, I think, seed cycling, I'm sort of like 2.5 months in. Just finished my period, and it was one of the most calmer ones. Still a bit of anxiety there, but one of the most calmer ones that I have had. One of the most least cramps that I have had. So I don't know what these seeds are doing, but they've been helping me, and I can feel the difference. So that's something that I've started doing, seed cycling to support my hormonal health, and also working with a naturopathic friend of mine who specializes in hormonal health too. So we have just done a Dutch test. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a really thorough hormonal test, and we're actually discussing the results this afternoon. So working with these natural remedies, these herbal remedies, working with, seed cycling, working with actually figuring out, what's going on deeper levels. Because even though the hormones were not the cause of my week, in my couple of weeks in bed, and my nervous breakdown type symptoms, they certainly have been keeping me up in that state of stress and dysregulated for a long time. And so they are it's like having the volcano, everything's in there and it's kind of bubbling, and then it explodes. And so once we've dealt with the explosion, it's getting into the volcano and actually seeing what's in there. So what's been in there for me? There's been some trauma I needed to heal. There's been some grief I needed to sit in. There's been hormonal imbalances that I've needed to deal with. There has also been injury in my body that I've needed to deal with. Another change that I've made I think I said some of you are going to listen to some of these changes and be like, oh my God, no, thank you. This is the one primarily, but I really can't stress the difference that it's made for me. And that is I have cut out caffeine pretty much next to none. So my routine used to be that I would get up and I'd have an energy fizz in the morning. I love them. I still have a fizz, but I've changed the time of the day that I have it. But actually for a few weeks I didn't have any because it had too much caffeine in it for my body at that point in time. I could switch to decaf coffee, but now I think I've had 2 lattes in the last 6 weeks because the caffeine is a stimulant, and when you have anxiety, the caffeine will, if you are anxious and you're getting panic attacks, caffeine is going to contribute to that. If you are anxious and you're jittery, if you are an anxious person, I really highly recommend cutting out caffeine. I don't care how tired you are. There's other ways. So I have replaced, and yeah, I recommend it, but again, talk to someone else about it if you want to. If you have anxiety, caffeine is not your friend. And I'm sorry if you love your morning coffee, but caffeine's not your friend. So I have replaced it with ceremonial grade cacao. So I still get to have a warm drink in the morning, and it's a drink that I really, really look forward to. It has all sorts of antioxidants and I think magnesium and other things in there that are really brilliant for the body. It gives you some really natural energy without any kind of crash, and there's no caffeine. So that is something that I have replaced. So I basically replaced a habit. So it wasn't just like I was just cutting out caffeine and depriving myself. I've replaced the caffeine with the cacao, and it has been doing wonders for my mornings. Absolute wonders. If you actually start to observe, test yourself to see how you go. Test yourself one morning. Have your caffeine and notice how you feel afterwards, and notice how the next few hours are afterwards for you. Then the next day, don't have your caffeine and see if you notice a difference in your anxiety. And if you've been in an anxious place for a little while, you'll probably notice that the caffeine contributes to how you're feeling and doesn't really help it. So those are some pretty major changes that I've made in my life in terms of supporting myself to come out of a rut, to come out of a place that was really deep and really dark and felt really hard to get out of. And I really wanted to share this episode with you, first of all, so that you know that even people who help people can struggle, because we are all human. Even people who have healed and worked through previous traumas, which I have done, but there's always layers. So I've healed to what I was ready to heal at that point in time. And now then the next layer comes up. And then the next layer comes up and the next layer comes up. And that's okay. There is no shame in having multiple layers. But the other reason that I wanted to share it with you is because I also know from personal experience, from being in that deep, dark place before, that if you don't recognize it and you don't ask for help and you don't commit to making changes that are going to actually support you holistically, and there's other things I've had to change too. For example, I am monitoring, for example, the way that I work. I'm not overloading my day. I am not sitting in front of a computer screen for prolonged periods of time so that I'm not triggering migraines. You know, there's holistically, I have a plan. And these aren't obsessive compulsive routines that if I don't do this, I'm going to get anxiety. It's not like that. Because I've also been there. I need to do this and this because this means I'm not going to get anxiety. No, that's not that. This is, how can I balance my body from the inside out holistically to help my nervous system, to help my hormonal health, to help my gut health, to be functioning as optimally as I possibly can to get myself out of this awful way I've been feeling. And I feel so much better. So much better. I'm functioning. I have my energy back. And I wanted to share this because, as I said, I know how easy it can be to get stuck in that deep, dark hole and find it so hard to climb your way out of, particularly when you're doing things that take a little while to feel better. And so you find it hard to get out of that. And so you start to accept, I'm just an anxious person. This anxiety is ruling my life. And you start to accept that this is how you function. And the thing is that you don't have to function that way. You don't have to, even if you have been for a really long period of time. You don't have to. Healing is possible and feeling better is possible. And I truly, truly believe that for everybody. Truly believe that for everybody. And I know everybody is going to take different lengths of time and everybody is going to have different circumstances that are contributing to how they're feeling. And depending on what, medications and things you've been taking and what your body is used to, everyone's circumstances are going to be so different. But I truly, truly believe in your ability to heal and your ability to come out of fight or flight and your ability to live in a brain that is anxious, that is not anxious. Something else that I did when I was really, really, really stuck in that deep, dark place, one day it's about halfway through it, I realized I had this kind of moment where I was like, oh my God, I literally help people to reprogram their brains every day. Why am I not doing that for myself? And so I recorded myself an audio to listen to the moment I woke up, because straight away I wanted to start interrupting my anxiety patterns. I wasn't even leaving the house. I was having panic attacks over just getting the girls out the door. And there was a period of time for a couple of weeks where I couldn't even do that. And the pain and the panic attacks. So when I say deep and dark, it was deep and dark. It was a freeze state. It really was a freeze state. So for me, it was really important to interrupt my anxious thoughts the second I woke up. second I woke up. And I mean, like, I opened my eyes and I put my earphones on and I hit play on this audio. And this is something I can create for you if you're a client. So I hit play on this audio and straight away interrupted my thoughts. Straight away got myself doing things that would help me to release any cortisol in my body that was over the top of what I needed to be up and alert and anxious. Because if your cortisol is too high, then you're going to feel extra anxious in the mornings. So it was really important that I interrupted my thought patterns as soon as I woke up in the morning. And so I did this every day for 2 weeks. Every single day I put on this audio straight away. And it was also included a visualization that combined tapping as well as other techniques to help me calm and regulate my nervous system and interrupt my thought patterns. And this visualization was of my day. Getting the girls into the car, walking to school or whatever we were doing. And guess what? It got me up and it got me out of the house because I was reprogramming my brain, because you can do that. You can do that. And then every day for those 2 weeks as well, I listened to a hypnosis that I created that focused on the fear of panic attacks, because that was one of the biggest things that was stopping me. I started avoiding every single place that I had felt anxious in the weeks leading into the big blow up. And so, yeah, I listened to this every day for 2 weeks. And boy, did it help. Boy, did it help. So just know that whatever has been going on with your brain and whatever's been going on in your body, it can be taught safety. It can be reprogrammed. It just might take some time. It might take some time and commitment from you, that if you really truly are not willing to continue to accept that kind of standard for yourself to live. And that, I think, was the big thing for me. There was no way I was going to let myself live in that state. I was accepting that something had happened and that I was experiencing something that wasn't very nice. I also understood why. But there was no way that was going to become my normal state of living. No way. And that determination meant that I was willing to do what it took. And did I need to do all, 20 changes at once? No, probably not. But again, I'm a manifesting generator and that's part of what I do. So for you, it might be smaller changes and smaller baby steps, and that's okay, whatever that looks like for you. That we can work on those things together. So don't stay stuck. If you get one message from today, don't stay stuck. All right. I hope you have the most amazing day. And if you are feeling a little anxious today, go and get yourself outside. Take your shoes off, put your feet in the ground and take some nice deep breaths. Ground yourself back into the earth. Ground yourself back into your body. Catch yourself every time you're in your head instead of your body, and just try and come back to the present moment. And then decide, am I going to continue to feel like this, or am I going to do something about it? And it might be that you want to have a chat with me, or it might be that you want to find someone else to help you. And now whatever pathway you take, please just don't sit idle. Don't sit idle feeling like rubbish and letting your life pass you by every day, because you deserve so much more.
Wow, what a journey it's been today. We are so grateful for each and every one of you who tuned in to Alive and Thriving. If you enjoyed this episode and want to help us keep growing, please consider subscribing and leaving a review on your favourite platform. It's a simple but powerful way to support a small business like ours to continue to make an impact.